Welcome back, everybody. Derrick Soo, your East Oakland advocate, back in the kitchen. Today, I'm going to show you how to make a Chinese donut sticks, also known as Youtiao. And so, these are really easy to make, and most likely you have the ingredients in your kitchen already. If not, they're really inexpensive. Uh, and one of the things that I really like about Youtiao is that you can eat them plain. You can eat them with soups as a dipping. Uh, or you can make it more like a traditional donut just by simply having some powdered sugar and sprinkling it on top shortly after you remove it from the cooking process. And we're going to go through everything. So, some of the ingredients that you're going to need: some plain all-purpose flour. You're going to need baking powder. You're going to need baking soda, some salt, and then for those of you that want it to taste a little more like a donut, uh, sugar. Uh, you can either use the powdered sugar, which is what I would recommend, since you might have to buy that anyway. But you can also use just the plain granular sugar. If you're diabetic, kind of like myself, I pass on the sugar and I eat it plain. I'm used to this style without the sugar. But for those of you that have kind of a sweet tooth and want it a little sweeter, add the sugar. As we go to mix everything, I'll tell you about that option also, and the measures, because one of the most important things about making any kind of pastry or bake, all of the measures need to be very, very precise to get the proper results. Those of you that do a lot of baking already know that. But for those of you that are kind of new to cooking, uh, measures and weights are very important, especially for baked goods and a lot of deep fried goods, because there's a science behind a lot of that. So I'm going to go over some of the things that you're going to need. I'm going to turn the camera around and we'll talk about that. Okay, so these are the ingredients that we have, but also there's some tools that you need. You'll want a big mixing bowl. Stainless steel is best, but if you have glass or ceramic, those will be just fine. Uh, you'll need 1 cup measuring cup. This is 1 cup size. And then you'll also want a level teaspoon, and that's what this is. For mixing, I like to use a silicone spatula because they're very flexible, as you see. So makes cleaning the walls and getting everything mixed much easier with one of these. And then for the cooking process, I like to have a cooking spider. You can also use this to turn the donuts gently once they start floating. Or if you're really good, chopsticks. And so I use these. These are my favorite, and these are extra long. These are referred to as cooking chopsticks, and so uh, they're much longer than the typical eating ones, and you can see how much further back they go. So, and then the surface that you'll want is you'll want a good solid surface, and so pastry sheet is nice to have because it also has your measures, has your conversions, weight measures, and then also temperatures. And so you see that. And then the other thing, the most important, expensive part is that Wesson oil or any kind of cooking oil is going to be the most expensive part, and that adds to the cost. Typically, in the old days when I used to make Youtiao, uh, it, I could make it for like 75 cents, 80 cents per serving or per donut. And now, just using the oil, that adds $1 before you even get to the other ingredients. And so right now, just your base costs to make a Youtiao is about a $1.30, $1.40 right now with the ingredients. So only reason why you want to make this is because you really want it, and like I do. And also, Youtiao used to be available in the Oakland Chinatown, and in the Oakland Chinatown, it's just been devastated by COVID, and the crime down there has just been abysmal, and so people don't go down there. And a lot of the shops that used to make Youtiao, these Chinese donuts, they closed up permanently, and so finding Youtiao in the Oakland Chinatown is nearly impossible. And then the places that you are able to find it, they only make it on the weekends, Saturday and Sunday, because they don't cost very much. They're about $2.50, $3.50 per donut now. So that's why I'm showing you how to make it. It's not that difficult. So I'm going to set up, and then we'll be right back. Okay, now that we're back, we're going to measure out the flour, and we want a level cup. And so we're going to measure out everything here. Get a good filling of the cup. And then what we're going to do, we're going to scrape the cup. I'll show you. We're going to scrape the cup forwards and backwards so that we get one full level cup. So that's a level cup. That's the first one. We're going to measure out one more. I need a little more than that. Okay, there's our second cup. So we've got 2 measured cups of flour, 2 level cups of flour right here. And so now with the teaspoon, we're going to measure out a level teaspoon of baking powder. Right there, you see baking powder. So we're going to fill the scoop up just the same. Then we're going to double wipe, and then it's a level. Dump that whole thing in. Then we're going to do the same thing with the baking soda and the salt. Again, just going to whoop that one. There's some lumps in there sometimes. And we want to fill it up and then just gently scrape the top. And then finally, the salt. We want to put the salt in. Again, a level teaspoon. And then after that, we want to mix it up really good. If you have a good whisk, you just want to give this a good whisking so that everything gets mixed in there properly. And the main thing that once we, when we go to add the oil and water, what works out best, right, so that you don't get lumps in the mix, because we have 2 tablespoons of oil that have to be incorporated into the mix, and we have 1 cup of water. So what we're going to do, now that we mixed all of this, we're going to, so that we don't get lumps, we're going to put the oil in the water. Set that aside, and then we're going to whisk the water and oil together. And that's all. And it's real simple, and then that way things don't stick. So what we're going to do, we're just going to go ahead and add all that into the flour and mix. Then we're going to start mixing. And this is going to be kind of loose for a while, so don't worry about it. And then you see what I'm doing. I'm scraping all the dry powder. We want to get all that dry flour mixed in and incorporated. So we want to get a good rough coat here, and then we're going to knead it just lightly, very, very lightly. But we want to get all of that flour incorporated in as best we can. We're just about there right now. You don't want to knead this too much, because when you start kneading the dough, it starts developing gluten. We don't want that gluten to develop, and so that's why we're going to just do that for right now. And to keep things from sticking to your hands, what you want to do, put a little bit of oil on your hands, and then this way it won't stick to your hands. And what you want to do, just kind of knead that. You see how without the oil it sticks to my hands. With the oil it doesn't stick. And so what we want to do is roll this into a ball, move this around a little bit, but we want to incorporate everything really, really well. So what we've got, the main part mixed right now. And what we're going to do now that we've got it balled up, we're going to let it sit for 20 minutes and let everything mix in there. And then we're going to come back and do a final couple of kneadings on this. Then we're going to let it sit for 2 hours. And in that 2 hours, everything's really going to smooth out, and it won't be so lumpy like this. So you see what it's looking like. We'll be back in about 20 minutes. Okay, it's been about 20 minutes right now, and what we're going to do, we're going to spread this out, smooth this, fold it over 3 times to create a big pastry ball. But what we want to do, we want to put a little bit of oil on the cooking or on the surface here, and this will keep it from sticking, because right now it's in a real sticky phase and we don't want it sticking. And that may be a little bit too much oil, but that's okay, as I can wipe that down some. So we're going to remove some of the excess vegetable oil here so that we don't dilute the dough too much. And now what we're going to do, we're going to spread this out. We're going to just take it just like that. And what we're going to do, we're just going to stretch this out. We just want to stretch this out. And I need to get more oil on my hands. You see it's pretty elastic right now, but we want to fold this over and push it back together. This way, this is like kneading the dough without kneading the dough. And again, we spread the dough out, and you see it's getting smoother. And don't worry about it being too wet right now, because the next step, when we actually go and stretch it out and make it ready for the cooking process, we're going to be adding more flour, so it'll dry it out. But right now, you see that it's a pretty big ball, and what we're going to do now with that ball, we're going to take this over to there, and we're going to let it sit in the plastic for about 2 hours. And in that 2 hours, everything's going to blend and mold itself in. And then when we come back, we're going to put a little bit of dry flour on top, and then also back onto the surface. We're going to have a dry surface. We're going to put fresh flour on there when we do the final portion. But right now, what we're going to do, we're just going to simply wrap this up, let it sit for 2 hours, and it's going to do its thing. It's going to expand. So there's going to be some expansion on this. So you want to leave plenty of room in here for it to expand. So just like that, we're just going to come back, going to leave it right there, room temperature for 2 hours. And then when we come back, we're going to go back over to that. We're going to clean that surface up while we're away, and then get it ready for the final step. Okay, we've reached the fun part where we're going to actually make the youtiao today. And you can let this sit overnight if you want. Put it in the refrigerator, but if you refrigerate it, take it out the next morning at least 1 hour before you plan on cooking. And then that way it can come back up to room temperature, because you'll need that to be at room temperature. And then some other tools that you're going to need are some long chopsticks. These are the cooking chopsticks. And so you have the extra long version. These are nearly 19 inches in length. And then we have the shorter ones, which can are, this one gets you a little more splattered, but they still work. And so also we have a big tall glass of water, or container of water. But before we start that, what I'm going to do, I'm going to turn this over here, and then you're going to see we're going to start the oil before, while we're setting up. This way it'll heat up, and you want to use clean new oil, because if the thing with youtiao is that if you cook something in the oil before, your youtiao will taste exactly like whatever you cooked previously. And this looks like a lot of oil, and it is. That's nearly half a gallon of oil. That's why a lot of people don't make this at home, because it is expensive. Even though the other ingredients are not so bad, that oil really adds the cost to the Youtiao. Typically, you want to do at least a dozen Youtiao to make it worthwhile. Then it breaks down. That gallon of oil was $16, $8. So you're still about, with electricity and all, you're about $1 just in the oil and the cooking. So your decision. I always like to do at least a dozen. Today, I'm going to show you back over here how to make the first 6. And we're going to stretch this out. You want to make 2, 3, maybe 4 of them ahead of time the day before. Refrigerate them overnight. Then the next day come back and actually do what we're going to be doing right now. And so we're going to set this aside. And what we're going to do first, we're going to make this surface not so sticky by putting flour down. And just not a whole lot, but enough to cover the surface, because that dough is going to be sticky. And so we don't want it sticking to the surface. You don't have to have a pastry mat like this, but it helps. And you want to also have well floured hands so that the dough doesn't stick to you. And so we're going to open this up, and you see it's pretty sticky still, and it's been able to mesh and blend overnight. And so what we're going to do, we're going to put a little bit of flour to dry it up right here, and then also push it in. But we don't want to fold anything. We just want to cover the surface so that's not so sticky. And we want to stretch it. We want to stretch it out to the width of the mat. And at the same time, we want to stretch this open to about 3 to 4 inches and have it stay there. We don't want to put any folds into the dough, because that's going to come back to haunt you. So right now on the side here, there's inches. So we're going to try and stay between 6 and 10 right here, all the way down. And if things get a little sticky, put just a little bit of flour on there. Not a whole lot, just enough to get rid of that sticky surface. And then what we want to do, we're going to put a little more flour down. And there's still some sticky surfaces here. So, but anyway, now that we have this stretched out, we want to cut this. And so you want to have a knife. And let's see, where's my knife? There it is. I'm going to use this. I'm not going to touch the mat very hard, because it doesn't need to be. But what I want to do, I do want to cut off the end that's kind of rough, because those aren't going to be useful. And then after that, what you want to do is about 1.5 inch cuts. And you want to have a dozen of these. And we'll just kind of scoot it aside. You can see it gets a little sticky sometimes, and well, that one's going to be a waste. That one got got a little sticky, so we may only be able to do 5 right now. I'm going to wipe this clean. I'll be right back. Okay, now we got a clean knife again. We're going to continue cutting the dough, and we're going to slide it over each time. And to make sure that doesn't happen again, we're going to dip the edge of the knife and then make our cut. And these should be about 1.5 to 1.25 inches in width. Length should be equal. That one got a little sticky there, but that's okay. We got 2, 4, 6, 8. And these are going to be stretchy, and I'm not worried about it right now because we're going to be stretching them out into the oil once the oil comes up to temperature. So I'm going to go with these. There. So now we've got these all cut into slices. Now what the next step is, we're going to take one of the chopsticks. We're going to put a line through every other one. In this case, we want to put a wet line through every other one. And what this is going to do, this is going to help the dough stick together, because we're going to be joining these in pairs. And you need a wet surface on there so that it can get a good hold of each other. Make sure you should be able to see water on each of those. So now what we're going to do, we're just going to take the neighbor and just put it right on top. Put it right on top there. Move that one out. Slide that over. Okay. So we have one extra one here left. And so now what we want to do, we want to take a dry chopstick and just push that down. Push that down in the center. And we're going to throw a little more flour. It's still kind of wet. We don't want the chopstick sticking on there too much. And this isn't going to hurt it in any way. So again, push down in the center, push down in the center, and push down in the center. And now what you want to do, need to dip this in the flour on the ends, and that prevents it from sticking. So here's the first one. Then we're going to roll the next one into the flour so that the ends are loose, because we want this loose. We want those to open up. There's another one ready. And one more. Roll it in the flour. The other side. This one. Then this side. And this. And this. So now we have 5 pieces that are ready for cooking. So we're going to check the oil here in just a moment. I'm going to clean my hands and I'll be right back. Okay, it's real important that your cooking oil, no matter what you use, is up to temperature. The cooler it is, the more oil your Youtiao will absorb. And so we want to have around 400 degrees. I have a thermometer here. We're going to check it and see where we're at. If we're up around 390, we're good. We're at 370, 76, 81, 84, and we just hit 392. So we're in good shape. We're ready to cook right now. So we're going to go ahead, put the thermometer aside. We have our cooking chopsticks right here at the ready. And we're going to put the first Youtiao in. Don't be in a real big hurry on putting too many of these in. What you want to do, you get the first one and then you just stretch it open. And this is a 13-inch wok, so it's not the biggest, but you want to stretch it like a spaghetti and then slowly just put it in and then drop it down. And then also what you want to do is drop the temperature back. And so I've dropped it back to 800 degrees, or 800 watts right now, I should say. And what you want to do is constantly roll the donut, and then that's what helps it to inflate. You don't want it to sit on any one side too long, because then it won't inflate. See, right now it's still inflating because it's soft, and you see how the sides are opening up there. Once it's inflated, then you can start with the next one. But right now, it's just about ready right now. So this is at a point where we can leave it. I'm just going to roll it one more time right there. We're going to put the next one in. So we have the next one, and we're going to stretch it open, then slowly dip it down, and then drop it in. And then what you want to do with the other one is constantly be turning that one about every 10 seconds or so. And so that way, this one's just about ready. So we're going to set these aside on a cooling rack. So we're just going to set it aside on this cooling rack, but we're also going to put away for the donut to get rid of some of the grease and oil. See how it's puffing up right there? That's nice. That's what you want to see. If you have a bigger wok, it really helps. A 12-inch frying pan works really well also, but again, it's going to be smaller than the wok because the wok flares out. and the wok is, this one is 13 inches. Uh, I'm used to cooking with 14-inch woks, but then on something like that, you have to have a gas range or cooking outdoors on an outdoor stove. And so this one's nearing ready, so we're going to put the next one in. We have the next one, and again, we're going to stretch and then dip. This one's almost ready. It's still browning up. See how this one's really puffing nicely? Then this one I can take out. But you want to constantly be rolling these so that it inflates. The baking powder and the baking soda can act and inflate the donut and make it real airy. See how this is now expanding? That's what you want to see. And then on this side, you see how it's really expanded on this side. So right now we're going to put in a fourth while we have the opportunity. And then this one's starting to float up now. And the reason you want to turn the oil down so that you don't, when you drop the fresh donut in, that you're not burning the other side. So we're going to take this out. And we're going to continue turning. If you don't turn, you see how it's not inflating as nicely when you don't turn. This side inflated, but the other side didn't inflate as nicely. It's still inflated, but right now we can add the last one, and that's what we're going to do. So we're going to open this up and really open it up and then drop it in. You see how the first one is now really browning up nicely, and that's what you want to see. You don't want too dark of a cook on it. And see, this one's inflating now. Now it's inflating. And you can also use tongs on this if you're not well versed with chopsticks. The only thing is with the tongs, you have to be very careful because at first these are going to be very soft. And it's even with chopsticks, occasionally I poke holes in them. Oh well, that's okay. So anyway, that's going to sit and drain. We're going to flip this one. That one inflated nicely right there. And then the leftovers that we kind of put off to the side, what I'm going to do with that, make donut holes. Just kind of roll them up in balls, toss them in here, and I'll probably put a little bit of stevia sweetener on top. I use that instead of sugar. Stevia is a natural sweetener, which is a plant leaf, the stevia plant. And that's one of the plants that we plan on growing in our vertical farming warehouse once we get that operational. And so people actually be able to try and taste stevia. And stevia you can use it in cooking, putting these plant leaves or the processed stevia uh, into your cooking, and it's so sweet. That's, you have to be really careful, and measures are very different with stevia. Stevia is 300 times more sweet than cane sugar. So these are all, there's 5 of them here right now. They're cooling off, and they're all ready to eat. So uh, there's a lot of ways that you can eat this. One of the posters, she was talking about juk. Yeah, I grew up with juk. What that is, to you Americans, you know that as porridge, and so it's rice porridge, and this is great dipping in that that juk. Also, if you want it to be more like a traditional donut, you can get yourself some confectioner's sugar or powdered sugar and just lightly dust the top, and then you'll have more of a traditional type of donut, but this is real light and fluffy and airy. So it's real simple. You should have all the ingredients right in your kitchen cabinet, your cupboard. Only thing that you may have to run out for, like I said, is the cooking oil here. As you see, the flour that was protecting certain portions is now off here. And what's going to happen with that, why you don't want to reuse that, because it starts affecting the flavor. The uncooked flour that's sitting down there is now going to burn next time when I heat it up. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to remove uh, the top oil once it cools down, and then uh, filter off, remove the uncooked flour, and then you can still use the oil, because this has not imparted any kind of weird flavors or taste. But if you keep that uncooked flour in there and it starts to burn, it does affect the flavor of your Youtiao. So those are just some of my tips. I hope you enjoyed this, and these are really crispy and crunchy right from the get-go. If you have to store it overnight, put it in a plastic bag, Ziploc bag, and if it's soft in the morning, you can put it in a toaster oven or in your regular oven and heat it up at 300, 350 degrees for about 5 minutes. It'll restore the crispness to it, and then you can eat it however you want at that point. Thanks for joining me. That's another kitchen tip from your East Oakland advocate.